Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast. On today's show, we have David Kelly from the Gettel organization and Drew Delaware from Gubagoo, and we're going to talk about modern retail in a post-COVID world. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
So, Drew, let's start with you. Last year at the Digital Marketing Strategies Conference, I challenged the auto industry and the chat companies and the website companies that we needed to engage more with consumers when they come to our website, that digital retailing without some type of assistance would fail. And there were two sets of DR companies out there, right? One, self-serve, the customers are going to know what to do. And Gubagoo was one of the pioneers that said, no, these tools are great, but we sell cars with people. This COVID pandemic, without sounding, opportunistic, had to be the perfect storm to get dealers to realize that they had to engage consumers online. What are you seeing from demand of dealers here in the U.S.?
Well, certainly we're seeing a huge demand, and we've scaled up our teams very quickly to make sure we can onboard stores as quickly as we possibly can. And there's a lot of realization that customers actually want this. They're happy to have this kind of experience that we offer in virtual retailing. And the dealerships that are most successful are the ones who are really active about engaging with the customers on their website. The ones who realize that they're real people, they're not visitors or traffic, it's actual people who are playing with payments in digital retailing system, and so they'll reach out and connect and create that human experience. So I think that's what you were challenging us to do, Brian, at the last DMSC, which was to really look at the ways that we can connect with people while they're retailing and bring some personal touch to the digital retailing experience.
I published a video this week. My heart was really trying to clarify, what did I learn from the past year being on the road and from COVID? And then it hit me. For years, we've been going to conferences, NADA, Digital Dealer, our conferences, and people say, your virtual showroom is important, and make sure the photos are right and the descriptions are right. And it was always virtual showroom, virtual showroom. Then it hit me. It's like, man, we never staffed it. So we had a virtual showroom with no employees. So when consumers came and had questions, it was okay to pop up a form and basically say, there's no one here to serve you, but if you fill out this form, we'll get back to you at some undetermined time. That's the way we do business. David, last year you embraced the Gubagoo virtual retailing suite for the Gettel organization. And you were one of the earlier pioneers to realize that we needed to do something to engage consumers online. Do you feel that getting started in August of 2019 better prepared you for what happened in March? Or were your utilization of those tools really not fully baked and, this was the light switch to accelerate?
No, I mean, we absolutely feel great about being kind of a step ahead. Most of our stores, or a good number of our stores, were on the tool. We put stores on the virtual retailing tool first that were utilizing the rescue feature of the chat tool itself. So we have chat on all the stores. It was easy to implement. Some of our stores quickly realized how important it was to engage with that person on their website, not the visitor, not the individual, not just another blind individual. Here's an actual customer that's on the website, so let's engage with them from inside the store. And so those stores went on the virtual retailing tool right away, let us work the kinks out in the process, kind of realize some of the uses of the tool and some of the uses of maybe what not to do within the tool. But it also gave us the opportunity to create the marketing, the Gettel to Go process, the Gettel Express shopping, having all that to be able to have that in place. We didn't market it right away. We put it on there. We let customers find it. We let customers engage with it. Once we started infusing the marketing, it really just started to take off in use. But just the innovation within the tool since COVID-19 has been amazing. And that's one thing we look for in a partner like a Gubagoo is where's the world today and how quickly has it changed and how quickly have we adapted our tool for that change. So yeah, I mean, we're thrilled. The stores that we put on since April, we've already got the marketing prepared. So it's just kind of a plug it into their website, put it into their messaging. There's no more learning curve. And just looking at the numbers on the tool, it's more than doubled, in some cases tripled the amount of engagement on those websites. So yes, customers are looking for exactly what we have on the sites now, which is very promising.
Well, David, I'm glad that you actually called your modern retail, virtual retailing process something. I've told people that if the last time they were at your dealership, it took 4 hours to buy a car on a Saturday, which is not uncommon, then why would they go back? Well, you'd have to tell them or educate them there's a new thing. And if you use the word like, hey, buy a car online, well, they really don't know what that is. But Gettel to go, what is it? One click to customize your payments, value your trade, and get pre-approved. So I love the fact that you're marketing it as a name, because I use the field of dreams analogy, build it and he will come. No, you have to create something that is memorable. And David, you talked about a partner that evolves. So I'm going to ask Drew a question. I don't know if you have family meetings, but it's pretty funny. Carrie's mom is one person in general, or my mom. They're like, I can't get the gallery to work. I can't see people. Like, okay, over the last 2 months, everyone has been addicted to video conferencing, video sharing. And Drew, we're hearing now more of this co-browsing or screen sharing. It's almost now normal to communicate even with the smallest things face to face. What is Gubagoo doing to provide that virtual, Zoom meeting experience so that a customer can see the sales associate or the F&I manager can review things with the customer as the conversation engages?
Sure. Yes, and I hear you on the family meeting. I had Easter brunch with Zoom with my parents. Like, what's that?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So yes, we pushed forward. We changed a lot. We pivoted very quickly on the product and development side as a result of COVID, and pushed out what we called Response Kit, which was a bunch of features that were what dealers needed right now, and changed our priorities. And a big focus of that was releasing virtual meetings. So that is a full video conferencing tool that includes screen share, and it's integrated right into the same tools that dealers are using to rescue chats, jump in and help with digital retailing process. So because of that integration, it's less awkward than using a third-party tool like Zoom would be. It's got that deeper, it's right there. You're able to click on it when you need it. You can send a video conference link through any of the messaging platforms, whether it's SMS or website chat or Facebook Messenger, wherever you're chatting with the customer. So we're very excited about integrating that tool, because that allows with the higher touch elements of the process, like F&I, especially if F&I gets more complicated, right? These higher touch points are great points to jump onto a video and even go into a screen share.
David, that brings up process. So you've started with virtual retailing August 2019. So now 9 months later, here we are 10 months later, and you've probably have rewritten your sales process manual, how you train people, the type of person you're looking for, making sure they have a face for camera. No, I mean, that would totally screw up all sales hiring processes in automotive. So David, what's one thing you could tell dealers who haven't really embraced virtual retailing, or they're rushing into adding a digital retailing tool to their website? What's the first thing that comes to your head as far as process that had to change based on the old way of thinking and the new way now that you know what works?
Well, you almost have to throw process out the window. Let the process fit what the customer is looking for at their comfort level. The road to the sale. I mean, let's talk about that. Right now, the road to the sale is actually out the driveway of the dealership to the customer's house, and whatever they're comfortable doing, that's what you need to meet them at. So there's that. From kind of a what are you looking for in a customer? You mentioned it earlier, Brian. I mean, we talked about our virtual showroom. Our virtual showroom, we never staffed that virtual showroom. So, we have stores now that are creating the virtual individuals, the virtual department, that their sole responsibility is the Gubagoo environment. So, usually the BDC was handling just the chats, and then only a manager level person could handle the Gubagoo virtual retailing side because the BDC agent isn't trained to pencil a deal. And that's what you're doing inside the virtual retailing tool, is you're penciling a deal. But ask a manager to sit behind their computer and try and engage with an invisible individual, right? I mean, it just doesn't happen. Those guys are used to the one-to-one conversations with the salesperson and the closing. So we're now looking at what floor managers might be the right guy to sit at the desk, and what staff does he need and what does he have, that when you're inside, someone's chatting and then you push them a payment and then they go into the virtual space, you've got that disconnect, BDC to manager. Well, that disconnect is gone because that person's sitting in the same desk or same office space as that virtual manager. So it all, so the staffing has to be computer competency, willingness to jump on video sharing, that kind of a thing. And the creativity in that department, the culture of that department has to be, where is the customer at and where do I meet them at, versus get them in. Let's get them in the store. Let's get them in the store. That mindset. Yeah, and it's funny, we talk about this, and I've been spending a lot of time talking about this. Instead of it being maybe 5% of our business yesterday, it might still only be 20%, 30% of our business today. It's not 100% of our business, right? We're not, it's changed, and it's absolutely changed. The usage of the tool, I'm just looking at some charts on my screen, it's really just gone through the roof in March and April, and really April and now May, but it's 20% of the business. In a store that's selling 200 cars, a lot of cars, and we need to have a department prepared to do that. And that's kind of what HR is looking at. That's what our training team is looking at. The road to the sale is where the customer's at today versus where we want them to be inside the showroom.
And, as I'm talking to dealers around the country, one of the common threads, and David, thank you for sharing some data. You're absolutely right. This tool, this period, is perfectly matched for people that are afraid to come in for health reasons, or they're just doing the stay-at-home order compliance, that they still need a car. But it's still not the majority of the sales, which is fine. But I bet when Starbucks first had mobile ordering, it wasn't a big part of the sale, right? It became, like, I would say, who would order your coffee on a mobile app? And then sometimes when I'm in a market where there's a line of 20 people, I'm like, now I see the mobile. Okay, so I think it's going to grow. But you bring up this idea of process. And Drew, as I've talked to dealers, one of the biggest questions is, Brian, how do I connect or engage with the customer when they come in? If they've done all this work, what are dealers doing to make sure that the person isn't insulted, with David's, reminder of the road to sale training, that they've done so much work online that somebody greets them on the lot, or the receptionist, treats them as if they haven't done a thing? What are you seeing as some best practices, Drew, to connect the virtual retailing customer with the showroom handoff?
Certainly, we're seeing the dealers who think things through, who put the time into strategy, are the ones who are the most successful. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. If you put the technology on your website and then think that it's going to magically start selling you cars, and that's the strategy, that's not going to be very effective. It takes us thinking through the process. And it's also important to acknowledge that every store is different and every region is different and there's a different culture. I think your culture needs to come through, and technology just sitting there is one thing, but when you're able to bring the humanity of who you are as a dealership, as a brand, as people, the warmth of who you are through the technology, that's what should come through when you're greeting someone who started creating a payment, right? So that they know there's a real person here that I can connect with who's here to help. They're ready for me, right? And that creates that human connection where a consumer is going to say, great, these folks are really on the ball. They're here, they're helping me, right? And that differentiates your dealership from the others.
One of the things that I told dealers is there's a possibility that for certain brands this can work. When I go into a Marriott, there's two reception desks that says Bonvoy Elite and Bonvoy. And I know to go into the Elite line. And when I go into the Elite line, it's normally shorter. They greet me. They thank me for my loyalty. They ask me about the perks, and I feel, recognized. What I told dealers, like for the Gettel organization, if Gettel to Go is the, brand and it's the Gettel Express lane, I like the idea of having a red carpet with Express Lane and then a regular welcome to Gettel. I want the sales associate to say, hey, since you've taken your time to pencil your deal, or, well, they wouldn't say it, but to work your deal online, you've saved a lot of time. When you come in, just go into the Gettel Express Lane. You'll see the red carpet, right? Kind of like the Bonvoy Elite experience. What I'm doing is I'm recognizing that they did a lot of work. I'm thanking them for their engagement, and I'm telling them, like in Disneyland, to go into the fast lane. I think that these opportunities are super important, for people to connect the showroom experience to all the work that they've done online. David, when you think of your business today, what was one of the other learnings that the executives or the general managers had to say to you as a result of COVID response and the Gubagoo platform?
Yeah, I think, the availability to use the tool, having the managers be available to use the tool, like I mentioned earlier, kind of creating that department was I think the biggest moment. We had another virtual retailing tool on the site that we've been taking off and putting Gubagoo on just because of the ability to interact with the customer where they're at. To have another tool on the site and just have it be flat and have no ability to engage on the back end just didn't make sense to us. And the kind of data we got back from that tool, we got a lot of leads from the other tool. And I shouldn't even say a lot. We got some leads from the other tool, but they were, kind of Drew was saying, they almost were just leads. And then all of a sudden they got shoved into a BDC process, and they really weren't a different type of customer. Whereas now you're able to engage with that customer when they're in the tool. If they have questions, you're there to help. And not everybody wants the help, right? They're still on the website. They're still kind of engaging. We don't get a ton of people saying, yeah, talk to me through the tool. But where I think virtual retailing is getting better, and what we are pushing our teams to use it as, is to put people into it. Rather than waiting for customers to be on our website and click one of the 3 buttons that are there that puts them into the environment, if they're texting with us and they're asking us for a price, and everyone asks for a price, right?
Sure.
We're able to send them a link through Gubagoo's virtual retailing tool that says, here's the price and here's the payment options. Let's talk about it. That's where we're getting the engagement. And that, to me, is where the win is with the tool, is to push it out rather than just waiting for people to come into your virtual retailing space. So a lead, and we'll call it a lead, may come in from TrueCar. A lead may come in from another third-party provider, but we're able to say, oh, if you're interested in your payment options, click here, and now they're in the tool, and now we can have those conversations. So that's a much more engaged individual. And by the way, you just gave them value, right? You just gave them, they wanted payment options. They don't want to come in because they're scared. You know, our part of Florida is a little bit more opened up. So people are starting to move around and come in at a little bit higher clip than they were before. But you know, the reality is you're now able to say, hey, stay home, save time. You know, be safe. Let's do this from home. And then you know, either we'll deliver it to you. And that's one of the last steps of the Gubagoo virtual retailing tool is, how do you want to take delivery? Do you want to come in? Do you want to schedule an appointment for us to bring it to your front door? Or do you want us to bring it to the Starbucks down the street so you feel maybe a little bit more safe because you're in a public setting? You know, I mean, that's just it's kind of a great way to say, you know, where are you at, and how do you want to transact? But that's the biggest thing that's changed for us, because before COVID, it was really just a tool on the website to try and get more engagement. Post COVID, it's a tool to help meet you where you're at from a comfort level, and how do we help you just, you know, deliver a vehicle to wherever you need us to deliver it to.
And David, in this video that I recently posted, I challenged the industry, are we going to chase or serve? And you exactly hit it on the head. DR tools that just pop up of forms that go into the BDC that doesn't give the information that consumers want, or just our standard Getty price, or is this availability, is a joke in 2020 COVID. What do you mean is it available? You have look it up in your inventory. So what I've been trying to do is to say, staff your virtual showroom and then serve, not chase. And be available to answer the questions, have a conversation, move those CTA buttons from Getty price to a conversation, or schedule a test drive from a form to a conversation. And Gubagoo was one of the first people post DMSC last year who took that and ran. So for the dealers who are listening, David made a huge breakthrough, like in process, that not every dealer's understood. It's one thing to put the button. It's one thing to engage, but you get leads from other sources, and you have people in your database that could be Equity Mine pushing out a deal link, being proactive. That means your first response after hours could include a payment link. Your equity mining, instead of, hey, we got a great deal, come on in, could be, we have a great deal, and here's your ability to work your own personalized deal. That's huge. Drew, are you seeing more and more dealers not just seeing DR as a passive if they click, but more as a proactive way to serve any inquiry that comes in, even a phone call?
Yes, absolutely. So to me, serving our customers, not chasing our customers, means meeting the customer where they're at, taking your process and ensuring that the CX, the customer experience, is central to the way you're thinking about things like equity mining, right? What does that look like from a customer standpoint, and how can you make that more customer centric? So we're seeing dealers do all sorts of innovative things with the tool because it's combined with a communication tool. So they'll do things like look through, we've got new programs that just came out, right? Looking through, okay, who was inquiring previously on these cars, and pushing out deal links with here's new payments, go take a look at what the options are, right? All of these innovative ideas are really starting to snowball as dealers start to think about the various ways they can integrate the combination of communication and virtual retailing in its true form together with their process.
Well,
Brian, that's a huge element within the tool itself, and frankly, we have a couple GMs that are hesitant, right? I mean, not every GM is jumping in with both feet into a virtual retailing space, and sharing what Drew was just talking about, to be able to go back into the Gubagoo virtual retailing and see what customers were maybe penciling themselves, and they got to a point, and they stopped at this point, and we got a new program from an OEM, or the dealer just gets to the end of the month and needs a few more just to get to where they want to be able to re-engage with that customer by repenciling the deal for them, knocking $500 off the price of the car, pushing out a text or an email to the customer or to an entire list of people that have engaged on, maybe it's Toyota Camrys, and I need to get a few more Camrys to either move some old age inventory or just to try and get to a number. All of a sudden, with the Gubagoo virtual retailing tool, I could do that with 1 or 2 clicks and text customers new link saying, hey, you were looking at this car and you stopped at $299 a month. What does $279 a month look like for you? And then you could then have them click in and they're right back into the tool and they're re-engaging with you. I mean, it's just, that's kind of been the final push for some of the GMs that are still maybe stuck in the old way. Well, guess what? I just showed you the old way and how it can be done the new way, and it's golden.
And of course, when they click on that link and come back into the tool, we know instantly that they've arrived. So that gives us great insight into the follow-up process, right? We can be available right when it's needed. We can be available through chat because they're back there. Whatever the follow-up process looks like, we have that extra little bit of knowledge.
Well, this has been a great conversation, and we just touched on a few things, and that's why at the Digital Marketing Strategies Conference this year in the Napa Valley, July 12th, 13th, 14th, we're going to bring the best technology companies like Gubagoo, the most progressive dealers, and we're going to start sharing what we've learned. There are a lot of dealers who've been late to the game, and for the last 18 months prior to COVID, I was traveling around the country talking about creating a modern brand promise, simplifying call to actions, moving call to actions to conversations, and to fully embrace modern retail. And like David said, there were many people just held out. And then the COVID explosion happened. And now, well, we can't just continue with the get 'em in philosophy in many parts of the country, still very much restricted. And so that's why DMSC this year is going to be extremely important, because we're going to be talking about technology, innovations like co-browsing and video conferencing integration, what new processes we've learned, what merchandising tips in the showroom, what marketing messages are working, what is the best way to communicate what virtual retailing really is to a consumer who's never bought a car online. This is going to be an epic event and the perfect timing, because David, I don't know about you, but don't you think by July we'll need to get together and have a glass of wine?
I'm all for that, but just getting together, period. We're overdue. I'm already looking at trying to schedule some lunch appointments because I'm tired of eating at my desk.
Amen to that. Well, for the dealers and industry leaders who are listening to today's podcast, you should know that every Monday I release a new podcast with industry leaders, innovators, disruptors, and Gubagoo has truly been at the forefront of conversational commerce, virtual retailing. So I want to thank Drew and the whole team at Gubagoo for listening and responding to the needs of dealers. Each week we post these conversations to better automotive retail. So if you've missed previous episodes, you can go to the Apple Podcast channel, just search for the Pash On Podcast, or Google Play, SoundCloud, or the native platform, Libsyn. So brianpash.libsyn, LIBSYN.com. Drew, one last thing. Dealers who want a world-class retailing solution, and that's what I think we're going to talk about. It's just these are retailing tools, and want to learn more about Gubagoo, and especially if they don't know how to spell it, what's the best website for them to get some information on the product?
Well, certainly come on over to gubagoo.com. And funny enough, you can start a conversation with us on the website.
Come on, you practice what you preach.
We're happy to chat with you, and we'd love to walk you through the platform.
Great. Well, Gubagoo will be at DMSC, and I can't wait to see some of the new data on the video conferencing and co-sharing of browsers. I think that's going to be a new insight. And then just some of the latest tech things that you're adding to the platform. David, thank you for your time today. Drew, thank you. And we look forward to sharing more time with our listening audience on a next podcast session. Thank you for your time.